Music Makers at the Keyboard, Week 27. Today there's a couple of new skills that we're going to work on today during this parent tutorial, and I'm going to go down each one and explain it, so stick with me, especially when we go through green gravel and the final part, which is the triple major composition, which we will need in class. So if anything, remember, make sure they finish that page so that we can do the next step for that. All right, so the first thing that you're going to read is major scales in C major, D major, and G major. It says to practice hands separately. They're learning a specific fingering and a thumb movement, and this is going to take time for them to master. So I'm going to show you that first. So first we have a C major scale, and I am going to sing the scale and play it. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. The fingering that I used is called a scale fingering. Here it is. Thumb, 2, 3, and they need to lift their hand enough so that their thumb can pass underneath very gently. We don't want to jam it to the fa. Then the rest of the hand follows over to so, la, ti, do, ti, la, so, fa. I'm back to the thumb, and I now pass my hand gently over, and I have to pass it so that my middle finger reaches mi. The thumb then follows through re and do. This is the fingering we will use for every single scale with the exception of F major. So here it is in D major. Get to the third finger, hand rises slightly so that the thumb can pass through. And again, third finger crosses over. And finally the G major scale. I lift just slightly, because we don't want this flat. If they're very flat, then they can't get there. So by lifting their hand up, they can have space. The third finger crosses over. Notice I'm using a very smooth touch. I'm not playing staccato, but I'm using a very smooth, connected sound. Left hand is the same, but it is a mirror reflection of the right hand, so I showed them a C major scale in contrary motion. They use the same fingering, so the thumbs play together, 2s, 3s, lift up slightly, the thumb comes under at the same time, and then the rest of the scale plays out. They come back down to the thumb, crossing over their third finger, and they're back here. So when they do the left hand alone, that fingering looks this way. If they start on their pinky, they're going to have to remember to get to their thumb and then cross over. G scale, they go all the way to their thumb, cross their third over, thumb comes under, and the D scale. Lift up a little so the thumb can get in there. There we go. Follow, 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 follow me. Let's make a line for all to see is the melody that we've been using to introduce the scales. But they're also going to learn to play this piece by rote using the practice CD, track 18. And it should sound like this. Did you notice I used the scale fingering? If they do it with the left hand, they're going to have to move their hand, but then they're back to the scale fingering. Next is the rain dance, Iona. This is the second week. Maybe now they're adding minor chords. don't have to add chords, but that's the beginning of Iona. All right, now we're moving into an unfamiliar piece. Although it's called a mystery song, it's only a mystery in that they don't know what it sounds like until they look at the music. So what I've done is I've created a copy of this piece. It's called Green Gravel. It's in C major. And if they haven't already, they can mark the patterns. If they've already marked the patterns, that's fine. Let's just review them. So every time we look at a new piece, we're always finding out where is the do or where is the la. In this case, it's a do, C do, and also your piece will have that C do sitting here with a C do written. And I may have circled it. And then they take that treble clef and they've gone through and they've circled all of the notes that have that line through it, which we're calling C do. Next, they're looking for a pattern called so, mi, do. And they may have used any color. Right now I'm going to use purple. And what's special about this pattern is that it ends on do, so, mi, do. The so is in the second line, the mi is on the first line, and do is on that added line, which we call a ledger line. And you will notice in their score that that's what it looks like. And they can go and find them if they haven't done it yet. So, mi, do. So, fa, nope. So, mi, do. So, mi, do. So, fa, nope. All right. Next, they're going to go and find so, fa, mi, re, do. So they look so, fa, mi, re, do. So, fa, mi, re, do. So this piece is entirely made up of familiar patterns, even though it's an unfamiliar piece. So Green Gravel sounds like this. So, mi, do, so, mi, do, so, fa, mi, re, do. So, mi, do, so, mi, do, so, fa, mi, re, do. When they're working on a piece like this at home, it benefits them to actually sit down with the music without the piano and to actually sing the patterns. Then they could do it again singing the rhythm. This starts on D. D, do, da, D, do, da, D, do, da, D, do. D, do, da, D, do, da, D, do, da, D, do. This is in triple rhythm. The other thing they may notice is that we have chords. This is the one chord. Here's the one chord again. This is the 5/7 chord, which they may still be only playing the two top notes. Here's a one chord, a one chord, a one chord, the 5/7, which again they may only be playing the top notes, and a one chord. So their homework is to learn to play this piece. This is a very playable piece. They can transpose it into other keys. Point out to the children is to notice that the first note of the piece does not have a chord underneath it, and that the chord comes under the mi, and this happens here and here and here. Now the question is asked, what piece will you play for our final mini musicale? As you know, on week 30 we do a family-related mini musicale where we do our favorite games, our favorite dances, and then they spend about 10 minutes sharing their favorite pieces for each other. And so I want them to start thinking about that. They can start writing it down. They can start practicing them. They should enjoy this part. Okay, we get to page 29. It says write a triple major composition, and as I mentioned earlier, we need this in class. We're going to turn this composition into a a group composition. It has a part A, which is the rondo that I'll be playing. And then they're going to choose a green triple rhythm card pattern, and they're going to copy it there. So for homework, they're going to go into their green triple rhythm patterns, and they're going to do that. And I always suggest that you find cards that are not too hard to play, but it's totally up to them. I'm going to end with the do-da-dee-do, do-da-dee-do-da-dee, do-ta-dee-do, do-dee-do-dee. So there's my pattern. I then copy it. All right, do-ta-dee-do. I've got to fit that into here. Do-ta-dee-do. That's one way you'll see children doing it. Here's another way that I really kind of prefer that they do it, is they do it by stems. Do, D, do, D. And then they add the dots. Then they add the flag. And the flag comes down, but it doesn't touch that dot. Here comes the next one. Watch how I do this one. Do, da, D, do, da, D. I add the dots. And then I add the beam. Do, da, dee, do. Do, da, dee, do. Add the dots. Add the beam. And I add that little dot. Now, you're going to use this rhythm. We're going to add pitches to compose a melody. All right, so now they have to find a sound. Now, they know do, mi, so, and I'm telling them that the do is found here. D is do. So, mi, do. So, mi, do. See, I have 4 dots, so I created a pattern using those 4 dots, and then I add the rhythm here. That's why I showed you doing it, because if they're thinking of the pitch, they're not going to be adding the rhythm until after. All right. All right, you see how they need to be at a line like that. All right. So, mi, do. Mi, so, mi, do. Mi, so, mi, do. I'm going to make sure that those dots completely fill in those circles. I add my pitch. Ba, 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 ba. Do, mi, so, do, mi, so. All right, so I did that. And I finish off, I want to finish on do. So, mi, do. And there I have my composition. They should come back with the completed composition. See you at next class.